Okay, yesterday we saw a Mishnah about rumors. If the rumors went out, with a man was with that he had a relationship with a shivcha or a goyeta, and the shivcha was freed and the goyeta was megaya, he should marry them. But if they do get married, then what? Then it does not have to divorce her. Conversely, if there's a rumor that he's been with an Ashes Ish, she gets divorced, then he shouldn't marry her. And if he does marry her, what? They get divorced. They have to get divorced. Rav said the Mishnah speaking with his Adam. There was Adam that there wasn't more than a rumor. There was Adam, right? And since there was Adam, that you leave. The Gemara asked on Rav, the Gemara says, well, Rav had very little choice because it said Hoitziuha. And it doesn't say Hoitzia, he let her go. It says Bezdin let her go. If Bezdin lets her go, Bezdin's not letting go without Adam. So the Gemara, we said Rabbi would hold that. No, Rabbi would hold even a rumor alone would do the job because Mechuya Hadava. We said yesterday, let's pick it up from over there on Chaf Hey Amid Aleph, Chaf Hey Amid Aleph, about 5 lines down. The Hilchasa Kavase the Rav, the halacha is like Rav, the Hilchasa Kavase the Rebbe. So 1 second, Rav means that you don't let it go. If it's just a rumor alone, if there's no Adam, you're not going to make her leave. And the halacha is like Rebbe that you will make her leave. It says Kasha Hilchasa al Hilchasa. Apparently you have a stira. It says more like Kash. It's not true. Habi called the pasuk. Habi called loy pasuk. It depends if the rumor stops or the rumor doesn't. Called loy pasuk. If it's a call that does not stop, it's ongoing. Vileka edim, then Rebbe, like Rebbe, because again, right? Because there's no edim. Rav would say no. Again, guys, this is another example of Rav Tanahu Upolig. Rav is arguing. Rav is the first generations of Amoraim. His uncle was Reb Chia, who was a Talmud of Rebbe. So here we're giving him, when he's arguing on Rebbe, we're giving him the status of a Tana. So he says, well, listen, he says, in that situation where the call's ongoing and there's no Edim, says Rebbe, I'll be machmir and make them leave. That call, if there's smoke, there's got to be a lot of smoke, right? A lot of smoke, there's got to be fire. So therefore, I will make them leave. Says Rav, there's no Edim not. However, call the pasuk, the Ika Edim, then Rav. If the caller stops, and there's no Edim, then like Rav. Afraid the Gemara, the call of the loy pasuk ad kama. You know, what's the extent that we say that what it's ongoing? That will say that will make them, if he marries her, that you'll have to get divorced. Rabbi, Amuli Aim, again, that's Rabbi's nanny. My nanny told me, Doimi Demasa, the suspected people of the city. Rashi brings Doimi is the lashon of Cheshudim, right? Either that they don't know, like Doim, they don't know, Vadai, they only know Safik, right? And this is Kimiduma, like it, Kimiduma, I think so. Good. So the Kimiduma Demasa Yuma Palga, day and a half. If the rumor is ongoing for a day and a half, that's a colored loy pasuk. That call would be enough, according to Rebbe, to make them get divorced if they would marry. V'loy amaron, that this we're now going to define the color of the pasuk. V'loy amaron el loy pasuk beni beni. It never stopped. In the day and a half, it never stopped. Avol pasuk beni beni. In the day and a half, it stopped. In the day and a half, once it stopped, pasuk, it's over. So in other words, if it starts and stops and starts and stops in the day and a half, that's the color of the pasuk. That's not, and therefore you would not have to get divorced. Who? In other words, let's say the person is he's a scary guy. He's a mafioso guy, and all of a sudden there's a coil that goes out, and all of a sudden the coil stops. That stopping is not a raya that there's no coil. Why? Because since he's a fearful person that people are scared of, chances are there really is smoke there. But again, they're scared of him. So therefore, you wouldn't qualify that in a day and a half. It might be hot. Says the Gemara, V'lei Amarin, another V'lei Amarin, El Deleka Oivim. You don't have any, and the guy doesn't have any enemies. In other words, if there's no enemies, then the coil for a day and a half, according to Rebbe, would make them get divorced if they get married. Aval Ika Oivim, if he's got enemies in the city, Oivim Hu Dafika Lel Kol, then we don't substantiate the call, and even if it's ongoing more than a day and a half, if he has enemies, we'll say it's the enemies that are fueling the fire, and therefore we won't believe it. So yeah, that's the call of the pasuk. Okay, Tanan Hasam. We learn the Mishnah over there. Tanan Hasam. Harold, we're on Chaf Hey Amid Aleph. Chaf Hey Amid Aleph, we're a little bit before the halfway point in the middle of the page. Says Tanan Hasam. Tanan Hasam. Hamoitzias ishtoi mishum shemra. If someone divorces his wife because shemra, that someone accused her of having an illicit affair, v'lo yachzer, and he shouldn't take her back. Mishum neder. If he's moitzia mishum neder, she made a neder, and he lo yachzer. Why not? Why not? Because both of these, at a later point, could prove to be unsubstantiated. Pirish. By moitzi shemra, he divorces her, correct? Then he finds out later on that, you know what, there was no truth to it. So he goes, had I known that, I wouldn't have divorced her in a million years. What would I have done? That would retroactively go ahead and ruin the get. And if she would have remarried, then the children would be mamzerim, right? Because she was never divorced from the first husband. Or had I known this neder could have been taken off, right? I would have taken off the neder. So both these cases, in other words, it's revocable. Since it's revocable, we say lo yachzer. You can never take it back. By saying lo yachzer, he'll never revoke it because there's no reason to. Because he knows once he divorces her, he knows done is done. So therefore, she could remarry without any chashad, chas v'shalom, that her husband could revoke her get, and who knows, cause a tremendous service down the road. Good. That's the din. Tan Hasam, it's a Mishnah in Ksubis. It says the Mishnah says that what and in Gittin, hamoitzi asishle mishum shemer leyachzer mishum neder leyachzer. Now, shalach le Rabba bar Huna le Rabba bar Rav Nachman. So two rabbis, one the son of Rav Huna and one the son of Rav Nachman. Right, we have another gersa over here, Rav Huna. It's interesting. I have a gersa from the Yevamot over here. Do you see it in your Gemara? Does it say Rav Huna? Does it say Rav Huna? I can't read my Gemara because someone bound it closed. Does it? But you see, guys, you see a Gemara what it says? Yeah, it's with a ches Huna. Baruch, look at the side of your Gemara. Ari, Chuna with a ches, right? Okay, I'll tell you something interesting. I started learning Yerushalmi, Yevamot, and on the first page it says Rav Chuna, and then it says in parentheses Rav Huna. So it seems this is Rav Huna who was in Bavel. This is Rav Chuna who had been in Eretz Yisrael, obviously, because Chuna is the version. So that's very interesting.
It does say Chuna. I'm looking at my Shas Gemara now.
It says Chuna.
It's Chuna with the ches, yeah.
Yeah. So I just said it's so interesting because I just yesterday, for the first time in my life, saw Rav Huna quoted as Rav Huna. I saw him quoted as Rav Huna, which was just I found fascinating. Yeah, interesting. Okay. Anyway, so he asked the following: in those two scenarios where you divorced because of shemra or you divorced because of neder, what happens if you would take her back? In other words, in the context of asugya, we're discussing there. We said if a rumor goes out, I'll shivcha, or with a gayata, you could stay together. If there's Eidim, you can't stay together. According to Rabbi, even there's a Koil Lepasik, you can't stay together. What about this scenario? That scenario of the Mishnah in Gittin, where it says you divorced because of Shemra or you divorced because of Neder, in that scenario, lo yachzer. But what happens if you yachzer? That's the Shaila that Rav Chuna asked Rav Nachman. What happens if you took her back in the scenario of Mitzvah Shemra Neder? What's the halacha? So he said, Amalei Tanina, you learned it. It's a tushtel exactly to our Mishnah. Hanitan aleishes ish. If there's a rumor by Eshes ish, the hoitziah mitachas yadai, and they bezdin made her go out. Afa pishe kanas yotzi. Even if it takes it back, yotzi. You have to let go out, right? Says Rashi, guys. Tanina hanitan. Let's see the tushtel Rashi. Go down a few lines. The hasam nami mafkiah mibaila. In those cases, we're taking away from a husband. The kivin the hitziyah mishum shemra gili daitay shakol emes v'nesrulay. So just like our Mishnah, Bezdin took her out because of what? Because of a rumor of illicit relations. So to Meitzi Shemra, which again is a rumor of illicit relations, you took her out for that reason. And Ki heicha dasrina lahacha mishum hichzik zehakol kishekansa. So just like over there, where you said Mitzvah Shemra, you were Haitzia because it was true, so too over here. Okay, so now says the Gemara, it really is not a good sushtel. Mi dami, amalei, mi dami. Said Rabbi to Rav Huna, mi dami. Hasam Haitziuha. Over there, Bezdin took her out. Guys, if Bezdin took her out, what must have there been? Eidim. If Bezdin took her out, our Mishnah said, guys, Haitziuha. They Bezdin took her out. We saw yesterday's Gemara. What did Rav say? That was Rav's diak, right? Rav's whole diak that he knew that the Mishnah is speaking by Eidim is because Bezdin wouldn't have acted without Eidim. So our Mishnah that is speaking about when Bezdin took her out, it's with Eidim. V'hacha, over there by Mitzvah Shemra, Haitziyah. No Eidim. He heard a Shemra, he acted upon it, and he divorced her. So Ken Zayin, in that case, if you would go ahead and take her back, you could stay with her. Again, Rav Huna wants to go ahead. Rav Huna wants to go ahead and sushtel the case of Mitzvah Shemra to the case of Ruma of Eisish. Our Mishnah is according to Rav and according to the diak of Haitziuha. Obviously, there's Eidos. So therefore, of course, if there's Eidos, you can't take her back. Masha'en Kein Shemra, where he went ahead and voluntarily Haitziyah, not Haitziuha, but Haitziyah, he let her go. In that case, he could take her back. Okay, so it's not a good sushtel. It's not a good sushtel. Yet Rav Huna continues on. Ve'akat, says the Gemara, Midai Hasam Haitziyah with Eidim, V'hacha Haitziyah without Eidim. Rabbi Rav Nachman Masnisa Nami Haitziyah Tran. Why did Rabbi bring a raya? Rabbi brought a raya to Rav Huna because our Mishnah, he didn't have the girsa Haitziyuha, he had the girsa Haitziyah. So again, it's also speaking without Eidim, and therefore it's a perfect sushtel to what? To Mitzvah Shemra, a coil go out, Mitzvah Shemra you went out. Says the Gemara, Ve'akati mi dami, and even if you're going to say that there was no Eidim in our Mishnah, because your guy is Haitziyah, right? Even if you're going to say that, nonetheless, it's not comparable, our Mishnah, to Mitzvah Shemra. Or why? Hacha by us, Baal. Who the Baal is taking it back. For Hassam, Boil. Over there, no, it's Hacha by Mitzvah Shemra, it's the Baal taking her back. Our Mishnah, it's the Boil taking her back. So maybe by the Baal, we wouldn't make her go out. Mashen came the Boil on a Chashad. I would let go. In other words, who are we helping over here? Somebody that a rumor went out that he had an affair with a woman and we're letting him stay together? No. We'll let you stay together. Mashenkin over there where it's the husband willingly take her back, right? So he shouldn't have done it in the first place because of the concern that maybe he would revoke it. But where she didn't remarry and he took her back, maybe there's no problem. It's the Baal. Amalei Shapid Dami. Amalei Shapid Dami Adadi. Wasn't Boil. Amalei Shapid Dami Adadi. Says the Gemara. Hacha Amar Rabbanan lo yichnos v'imkanis yaitzi. Hachanami Amar Rabbanan lo yachzer v'imkanis yaitzi. So it's still comparable. In other words, you want to say that what? Wasn't Boil. Amalei Shapid Dami Adadi. It is comparable. Don't make the chilik between Baal and Boil. It's still why? It's still comparable. Why? Hacham Rabbanan, the Chacham said lo yichnos v'imkanis yaitzi. Hachanami Amar Rabbanan lo yachzer v'imkanis yaitzi. Our Mishnah says you shouldn't do it, but if you do it, go out. Over there it says what? If you shouldn't do it, but if you do it, go out. In other words, brass tacks. I don't care what the reason is. The bottom line is Baal Boil. Don't do it. And guess what? If you do it, out. Says the Gemara. No, I don't see that. I don't see that. Big difference. Veloihi. It's not comparable. Hasam over there, meaning by us, by the case of where the coil went out, that they were involved. You let us stay together with the man, alume alme lekala, you're strengthening the coil. What was the coil? That she had been with this guy. The husband divorces her. What does she do? She goes with that guy, right? So therefore, that would be substantiating the coil. Hachaminan, but over here, if the husband remarries her, what? Kombe b'kol of Alessa. He'll say that kol is shemra. The reason he took her back is because there was nothing to the koil. The fact that he took her back weakens the koil. Why would the guy divorced his wife because of what? Mighty shemra. So what? Now he's going to remarry her. By remarry her, what does this action say? Now you should do it again because you're worried about revoking it. But set aside, if he were to remarry her, people are going to say, "Wow, there must have been no truth to it, because if there was truth to it, there's no way in the world he's remarrying her. There's no way in the world he's remarrying her." Masha Einkein over here in the Mishnah, if the koil goes out with this individual, if he marries her, therefore you're going to go ahead and break it up. Masha Einkein by Mitzvah Shema, you won't break it up, and that seems to be the chilik between the two. Okay, we're familiar with the Hilchos Gittin. Just a reminder that if a person brings a get from Medinas Hayam, a shliach brings a get. He's a shliach lahilacha. He's a shliach to bring a get from Medinas Hayam, either because they're not experts in lishma and the din of a chasav lishma, or because there are no shiuros mitzuyon l'kaimai. If the Baal is going to go ahead and claim it's a forgery, you won't be able to go ahead and authenticate the Eidim. So therefore, to avoid that, guy comes and he has to say, "B'fanei nichtav," in front of me was written, and "B'fanei nechtam," in front of me was signed. Having said those two things, then he's believed, and he'll be a good shliach, and you believe that he said a lishma, and you believe the Eidim are good Eidim. Okay, so now, maybe get me Medinas Hayam. B'fanei nichtav, b'fanei nechtam. In front of me was written, in front of me was signed. La yisa es ishtay. Right? He shouldn't marry what? He shouldn't marry. In other words, he shouldn't marry. The shliach should marry. Why? Because Ken Zayin, the whole reason that maybe the husband's alive and he wants to say he's divorced, then he should marry her. So therefore, in other words, dealing with chashad and chashudim, this is a chashad. He doesn't marry her. However, if he says mace, he said the husband's dead. Haraktiv, I killed him. Harginuhu, we killed him. Then lo yisa es ishtay. Then what? He can't marry her. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, haraktiv. If he says he killed him, lo tinase ishtay. Not only he can't marry, but lo tinase ishtay, no one could marry. His edus is no good edus. In other words, if he brings the get, or if he says he's dead, he can't marry, but based upon his edus testimony, she could marry. In the first cases, guys, he can't marry her because, again, the chashad of, as we said yesterday, you don't want people talking about you. You don't want people, you want to be squeaky clean. On the other hand, he is believed that she would be married to somebody else. Conversely, in the case, says Rabbi Yehuda, if he said, I killed him, in that case, he's not believed. Even that she married someone else, because again, he made himself into a Russia. Rabbi Yehuda Ima haraktiv, like tinase ishtay, however, harginuhu tinase ishtay. We're left to make a chilik. What's the difference between I killed him and we killed him? If he said he killed him, he's a Russia, and if it's a Russia, it should be pasalatis in both scenarios. Good? Okay. So now, the first din in the Mishnah. Taima, the Medinas Hayam, the Allah Kosamchinen. The reason why what? He can't marry her is because we're totally savich upon him, because he's coming from Medinas Hayam. Aval Me'eretz Yisrael, the Lav Allah Kosamchinon, if you bring a get from Eretz Yisrael, and you don't have to say, B'fanei nichtav, b'fanei nechtam, right? Then you says Ishta, he would be able to, right? He would be able to. Now, furthermore, of a mace, the Lav Allah Kosamchinon, when he says that your husband's dead, he's not allowed to marry her. But 1 second, we're not samich on him when he said the husband's dead. The Amamar, Isha Daika Uminsava. A woman is medayik and checks it out. Okay, guys, outside. It's also in the first sugya in Masechta Gittin, and it's later on in this Masechta. We are worried mishum iguna hikilu b'rabanan. Because of iguna, we're very, very mekel l'inyan edus. When the Torah says al pishnayim edim or shlosh edim yakum davar, when you need 2 edim and to establish something, when it comes to edus isha, the chachamim were mekel. Why? Mishum iguna hikilu b'rabanan. Because we don't want this woman to remain what? So think about it. Go back to the Holocaust. If you didn't have 2 edim that a woman's husband died, she's going to remain aguna for the rest of her life. So let's say one person saw it, even if the person's a woman. Everyone's believed except 5 women that are not believed. But we'll see that sugya later on. A mother-in-law is not believed. Yevamot is not believed. The Tsar is not believed. But again, in all scenarios, they believe. It's a tremendous kula. Good. So now he comes along and he says, your husband's dead. We don't care about him. We're saying Isha Daiku Mitzvah. She's going to check it out really well because she doesn't want to end up married to somebody else and the first husband showed up. So therefore, we're not signing upon him. We're signing upon her. So now we're making the following diak. The reason why by get he can't marry her because we're signing upon him. Where we're not signing upon him. So, for example, if you bring a get from Eretz Yisrael where you don't have to say b'fani nichtav, you don't have to say b'fani nechtam, he could marry her. So what's it different by Mace, where also we're not signing upon him? It parallels bringing a get in Eretz Yisrael. Why over there can he marry her? That's the Gemara's kasha. It's very the Gemara for Mace, by a case of Mace, the lavala kasamchina, we're not being signing upon him. The mamar isha daiku mitzvah, the ketani lo yises ishto, and nonetheless, what you can. So we have the dik of get from Eretz Yisrael up to the Mishnah, where you still can't marry her. Mishnah says before you can't marry her, and from the Gemara, there's a big difference. Hasam over there by Mace, leka ksava. There's no ksav. There's nothing. There's just his word. Hacha ik ksava. The hair over here, he's a shliach. He's bringing a get. What does the get say? She's divorced. So the nan ma ben get lemisa shaksav machiach. What's the difference by get? Whatever the sugi is talking about. What's the difference by get that you believe and by misa not? By get, it's in front of you. Here it is. Again, the reason you have to say b'fani nechtav in the case of what ma'arav get, but you have a get. Mashenke, you don't have to say b'fani nechtav is saying the get is totally squeaky clean, either because you can find Aiden to be substantiated, or because the Bnei Yisrael will be kiyim and they know the right of lishma, and therefore the get would be gavaldik. Mamish gavaldik. Here's your get. We're not saying it. Therefore, what he can marry her. Mashenke by Mace, where what? There's no substantiation, therefore he can't marry her. Now, Mace or Haraktiv, I killed him. Harginuhu, we killed him. Layisa es ishtai. This Gemara is a tricky Gemara, guys. The next piece of Gemara is a little tricky. I'm not sure I have it right. Now, we say, who nihu de layisa es ishtai? He cannot. Halacha tinase. But for another person, she could. In other words, guys, Mace, I killed him, we killed him, is kashaledis. We're letting her marry based upon what? His testimony. What's his testimony? I killed him. We killed him. He's dead. She can marry somebody else. She can't marry him, but she can marry somebody else. So obviously, based upon our Mishnah, clearly the Mishnah is stating that even though he's making himself into a Rasha by saying, I killed him, nonetheless, we will accept his testimony because she's able to marry somebody else. Guys, you got it? Now, the kasha is not on the Mishnah. The kasha is going to be on Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef is the Amoira. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yosef, Ploini Ravani La'insi. So-and-so forced himself upon me. An act of znus, and La'insi, I was an oinus. So in other words, an act of znus happened, an avera happened, that I'm not chayev for because I was an honest. Hu va'achim mitztarfin lahargai. Another person would come along and testify to that fact. They'd be able to kill the ma'anis. They'd be able to kill the person who did the avera. However, if he says ploini rivani lertsoini, I willingly was part of the act of znus, then Rasha who? He's a Rasha. V'hatayra Amar al tashish yadcha in Rasha liyos eid chamas. Passing a pashas mishpatim. Question Rabbi Yosef. How can you, Rabbi Yosef, say ploini rivani lertsoini is what? Is he's pasal edis. You see from the case over here where he said, I killed him. He's kashal edis. It's a kasha on Rabbi Yosef. It's not a kasha on our Mishnah. We see over here from our Mishnah, the guy is a Rasha, right? He's a Rasha. I killed him. Yet he's believed. What's the right he's believed? She's able to marry somebody else. Yet, if he says, I was part of an act of znus willingly, then what? He's not believed. Willingly. He's not believed. So that's a kasha on Rabbi Yosef who says that then by act of znus, you're not believed. Now, the easy way out would be Rabbi Yehuda. What did Rabbi Yehuda say in the Mishnah? Rabbi Yehuda, haraktiv leitinase. She can't marry. In other words, Rabbi Yosef has a tana. He has someone who goes that he can find support to. That would be the easiest way out. Now, of course, we don't want Rabbi Yosef to go to a Das Yachid. We want to go according to the majority opinion, the Rabbanon, but that would be a way out. Again, the kasha is not, it's a funny Gemara. Usually the Gemara asks the kasha, we're taking a Mishnah and asking on an Amayra. So now, very geschmack. You, Rabbi Yosef, say he's a Russia. If he's a Russia, how in the world could she marry somebody else? And that easiest way out is to say, well, 1 second. In the Mishnah, there's somebody says she can't marry somebody else. Rabbi Yehuda says, if you said you killed him, she can't marry somebody else, you're not believed. So therefore, very good. Pliny Ravani Lertsoini, not believed. Haraktiv, not believed. Right? Very good. That would be very good. Says the Gemara. Shiny Edis Isha. No, guys, we don't want to say that, guys. Obviously, in other words, we're looking for a possibility to establish that Rabbi Yosef could go according to the Rabbanon, and we just want to find the chilik between Haraktiv, vis-a-vis Edis Isha, and Pliny Rivani Lertsoini, and the Actus Nus. In other words, in the logic over here, guys, it's beautiful logic. Where Rabbi Yosef stuck. He's either arguing the Chachamim or not, or not. We'd much rather say not. But so if there's not, we have to find the chilik logically between our Mishnah and the act of Znus that he willingly did. So now that's what the Gemara says. V'chitema shiny edis isha the kilu barabanan. In other words, our Mishnah really you're not believed, like the case of Znus. However, the Rabbanon will be masking to that, says Rabbi Yosef, and I hold like the Rabbanon. However, there's a difference in our Mishnah because we know by Edis Isha, as we gave this whole Hakdama, there's a big kula mishumiguni kilu barabanan. And therefore, even though by Znus you're not believed, by Haraktiv I killed him, you would be believed. Rav Menashe, Amid Beis, says Rav Menashe, Gazel de Devrehem, a Gazlan de Devrehem. Let's say he's a gambler, Misachik Bekuvia, he's not Isaac Yeshuva Shalaylam, he's Pasal Edis. That's only the Rabbanon. But Kasr Edis Isha, he will be Kasr Edis Isha. Gazel de Devrei Torah, Pasal Edis Isha. Good. So now, if he's Gazel de Devrei Torah, you'll be Pasal Edis Isha. Meaning, therefore, Haraktiv, you're a murderer, you'll be Pasal. So now, Rav Menashe is also an Amayra. So he would only agree with Rav Yehuda, right? Nema Rav Menashe Damak Rav Yehuda. Let's say Rav Menashe holds like Rav Yehuda. So in other words, Rav Menashe holds like Rav Yehuda, and Rav Yosef would disagree. He would disagree. He could say by Edis Isha we're more Mako. That would be the way out, right? That would be the way out. That he's more Mako, and he goes and Rabbi, right? And he goes like the Chachamim. That would be a way out. Name of Rav says, name of Rav Menashe says, guys, Rav Menashe says that a Gazlan deraisa is Pasal Edis Isha. So therefore what? A person says, I'm a murderer with Pasal Edis Isha. That's Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yosef would disagree with Rav Menashe and go according to Chachamim that with Edis Isha you could be Mekel. Amalach Rav Menashe, no. I can hold like the Chachamim. If I hold like the Chachamim, what's the difference between Gazlan, the Raisa, and what and the Haraktiv? The time of the Rabbanan Hacha Kidarava, the Amar Rava, Adam Karev Eitzel Atzmai, Ve'ein Adam Esim Atzmai Rasha. That a person is a Karev to himself, and he can't make himself into a Rasha. So therefore, if he would say Haraktiv, I killed him, he's believed. Why? Because he's not a Rasha. He's not a Rasha. He's believed. He's believed. So Rav Menashe has a way out. I'm not Mako. By Edis Isha, I'm not Mako. I have a loophole over here that even like the Chachamim, right, you should be believed. Now, Rabbi Yehuda obviously doesn't hold that loophole. And neither does Rav Yosef, guys. Why? Guys, what did Rav Yosef say? Ploini Rivani Lertsoini, then you puzzle. I ain't other Mesim Atzmei Rasha. What's the difference, guys? Look at me. What's the difference between saying I'm a murderer or saying I'm a noyef? I'm an immoral person, right? They're both Isuri Deraisa. I'm a murderer or a Moivran Gili Aroyos. Rabbi Yosef said, if you said I'm over Aroyos, you're not believed. So obviously he must agree in our Mishnah that when he said haraktiv, he'd also won't be believed, unless he says there must be a case that would make it by Eidus Isha. Or else you have no way out. Says the Gemara now, if that's the case, that they don't have the psul of Edom from Russia, you're going to have to say that he holds like Rabbi Yehuda. So let's see the Gemara inside. And it's a very confusing Gemara. 2 lines down. Name of Rav Menashe Rabbi Yehuda. Rav Menashe says that Eidus deraisa puzzle must hold like Rabbi Yehuda because you're going to be made, you're a murderer. Rav Menashe another mefila Rabbanon. And there's a difference between Eidus Isha and there's the time of the Rabbanon Hacha Kidarava. There's no difference between Eidus Isha, but there's a difference over here in Rava. The Rava not karva it's latzmai. So when he went ahead and said, "I'm a murderer," they know the Mesim Russia. Now, why don't you say that teretz by Rabbi Yosef? You can't, because Rabbi Yosef said, "Pointing Ravani L'Tzaini," he is believed. He's making himself into a Russia. You see, he doesn't hold it at Svara. Says the Gemara, "Leimer Rabbi Yosef, Damak Rabbi Yehuda. I'm not Rabbi Yosef, and not Dam Yafil Rabbanon." What's the only heter out? The shiny Eidus Isha de Kilu Rabbanon, and therefore Rabbi Menashe Damak Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Menashe hold like what? Rabbi Yehuda. In other words, guys, the following: Rabbi Menashe and Rabbi Yosef don't agree. They can never agree. So either, they want to come out according to the Mishnah. So either Rabbi Menashe holds like the Rabbanon, and then Rabbi Yehuda holds like Rabbi Yosef holds like Rabbi Yehuda, or vice versa. How can Rabbi Menashe hold like the Rabbanon? After all, Rabbi Menashe is the one who said Gezel the Araisa is Pasal Eidus. So a murder is Pasal Eidus. What's the way out? Ain't other Mesim Atzmai Russia, right? I can't make myself into a Russia. Therefore, we disregard yourself. We would believe you as an aid. We disregard you as a Russia. Good. Now, so therefore, Rabbi Menashe would be like the Rabbanon, and Rabbi Yosef would be like Rabbi Yehuda. Now, why would Rabbi Yosef be like Rabbi Yehuda? Because he doesn't hold of Ein Other Mesim Atzmai Russia. How do you know he doesn't hold of Ein Other Mesim Atzmai Russia? Because Rabbi Yosef is the one who said, if he says, Pliny Ravani L'Tzaini, so-and-so did an act of snus to me, and I willingly was part of it, he said, then you're not believed. You're making yourself into a Russia. Obviously, he doesn't hold of that. So now, the only way for Rabbi Yosef, therefore, to come out according to our Mishnah, if he holds that you're a Russia, right, and haraktiv, I'm a Russia, that only Mishum Igune, Kil Rabbanon, Eidus Isha would be different. And therefore, then he would be like the Rabbanon, and Al-Kachach Rabbi Menashe would be like Rabbi Yehuda. Guys, good? You're playing with two svaras over here. You're playing with the svara. A heta in Rabbi Yehuda would be what? Mishum Igune, Kil Rabbanon by Eidus Isha. The heta Rabbi Yosef is Ein Other Mesim Atzmai Russia. And neither one holds from the other one. Neither one holds from the other one, because you saw, but we brought Rav Menashe Raya that there's no difference by Eidus Isha. And we brought Rabbi Yosef, there's no difference between Russia and not Russia. Okay, that would be the Gemara. I hope you understood it. If you don't, Chaza. Listen to the recording. Says the Gemara Vaita. Now, the last din of the Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda, was interesting. Haraktiv, she can't marry somebody else. Harginuhu, she could. So, question: if Rabbi Yehuda holds that he's a Russia, and of course he said I killed him, what's the difference? That we killed him. He's also a Russia. You're not less of a Russia if you're a partial murderer. There's no such thing as partial murder, right? We have the Gemara in the Sanhedrin that 10 guys hit him. The last guy, in Baba Kama and Gittin, the last guy, Achloikis, whether they're all chayev or the last guy's chayev. Okay, anyway. Maishna haraktiv, maishna harginu. Why by haraktiv I killed him is he not believed? And why maishna harginua, where what? He is believed. So meaning, not that he's not believed, we'll accept his edus. By harginu, we won't accept his edus. Harginu, we will accept his edus. Haraktiv, we won't. Amrav Yehuda ba'omer aniya yisi hargiv. When he said harginuhu, he didn't say I killed him. He says I was with the people who killed him. By haraktiv, when I killed him, right? Then he's a Russia. He's a Russia, says Rabbi Yehuda, he can't say edus. Where he says harginuhu, we killed him. No. I was with people who killed him, but I didn't kill him. That's what they all say, right? They all say that. Harold, as an investigator, yes, they all say that. I was there, but says the Gemara. For Tanya.
No buts.
Actually, give us the line. I want a lawyer. What's the line?
I think you need one. Do you think you need one?
But Tanya, now we have it on for posterity. But Tanya, Amr Rabbi Yehuda. They said to Rabbi Yehuda, Maisa ballistim Echad, sheyoytze lahoreg b'mezigas kaputka. There was a ma'aser with a robber. Now, listen, they were usually murderers too. Be taken out to be killed in the crossings of Kaputka. But Amar Lahem, as he was being taken out to kill, he said the following: L'chu amru lo leisha Shimon ben Kayin. Go inform the Eshes, the wife of Shimon ben Kayin. Go inform him. Ani araktiv es baila. I killed her husband Shimon ben Kayin. Bichnisasi lelud when I was entering Lud. V'mila bichnisasai lelud when he was entering Lud. Ve'isiu es ishtay, and they went ahead what? And they married on that. And they married based upon this, that they married it. So in other words, what do you see? Haraktiv is believed. Kashan Rabbi Yehuda. So on Amalahem, they said to what? To Rabbi Yehuda, Misham Raya, Yisi im Hargiv. I was with them. In other words, this Maisa is a shtickle Raya to Rabbi Yehuda. We're turning the tables now. I was with them, but I didn't do it. Freding more of a list him, Katani. It says they will list him, right? Mashma that what? That this person, if they list him, then it will be shver. He's also like Rav Menashe. Kasher is, when he said list him, how do we believe him? Guys, what Rav Menashe said, list him, robbers aren't believed. So if he's a robber, why is how could we accept his aidus? Forget that he's a murderer, right? He's a listim. He's a robber. A robber is what? There's also Nishkan Kasher Mensch. So l'chayra, it's shver. Like if we're going like Rabbi Menashe, it's shver both in Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbanan over here that we believe the guy. Says the Gemara, it doesn't mean he was a listim, but shenifas al yedei listayis, right? He was nifas al yedei listayis, but he wasn't a listim, right? He was with them. In other words, he was guilty of it by association. He wasn't really a robber. He was guilty by association. Therefore, he was believed. One second, Harold. Let me get to the two dots. So he's being taken out to be killed. So if he was just associated with them, why would he be taken out to be killed? It says, is the Bezdin of Goyim who they kangaroo court. They were medayik. This guy was guilty of association and boom. Yes, Harold.
No, it's my question.
Okay, so let's go over. Let's go. What do we see? Let's go over this last shtickle. So we have machloikis between. Again, we did the machloikis between Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi Menashe. Had to learn pshat in that mishnah, whether it's a chum, either mesa matzarashay or mishumiguna kill rabbanan. And now we have a chilik. Rabbi Yehuda makes a chilik between I killed him and we killed him. And the Gemara is saying we killed him as he didn't kill it. He was with them. Fred the Gemara Maisa from a Maisa mashma that Maisa that he believed the person who says he killed a certain individual. Says the Gemara, there's no riot from over there, right? He says I didn't kill him. I was with people who did kill him. Fred the Gemara it says list him. Fred the Gemara, if he's listed, then what? We shouldn't believe any of his testimony. Any like Rabbi Menashe guys. The place can bring a riot from here from this kasha that the halach is like Rabbi Menashe, not like Rabbi Yosef guys. That we're machmer, you see that we're machmer across the board by the raisa. So the chayra, if he's a robber, why do we believe him? And for the Gemara, that he really wasn't a robber, he was guilty of being a robber. For the Gemara, if he's guilty of being a robber, why is he? If he wasn't guilty, he was just guilty by association. Why is he being killed? Says the Gemara was a kangaroo court. It was a goyish court. They didn't look into the matter. Says the Mishnah. Okay, remember, but this is all the same thing, that we won't let somebody marry because of hasa mimcha. We said you're supposed to ikosh peh lezus fasayim. You don't want people talking about you. You don't want people talking about you. Therefore, if there's a koil on shivcha, a koil on goyita, don't get married. If you're divorced, but might you shemra, don't remarry her. If you're divorced because of neder, don't remarry her. Right? So now we're going to do the Mishnah on chav hey on the base. Yeah. Right? But that pasuk is on. That's chav dal on the base. Chav dal on the base. On the base. Chav dal on the base is the pasuk. Okay. That again, that's this whole sugya basically. The sugya is we want to avoid that. Don't do things that be in people's mouths. The famous thing that I'm going to do it because I know Hashem knows best, and I'll do it. And I don't care what people say. You're wrong. You're wrong. There's an hasim and chas ikash pirish. Go ahead and avoid the mefursha pasuk in Mishlei. Hasim imcha ikash pel is this society. You should care what people say, because inevitably, if you're going to people talk about you, it's a chil Hashem. Inevitably, if you're a God-fearing Jew, right? And people think about it, how people, the expectation of us is, and you see from the Goyim all the time, the expectation is different for the Jewish people. As the conscience of the world, we have to act above board. For who are we have to act above board when it comes to Jews too. So Hesem Mimcha Ikesh Piol is a Messiah. You have to go ahead and be careful. So this is such a case. Let's say you have a dayan who goes ahead and matters a woman, right? Let's say the woman has a neder on her, and she goes and he doesn't find the Pesach, and the husband has to divorce her. He should marry her. Why? People say the reason he find a heter for her is that he can marry her. Guys, I'll tell you something that is mind-boggling. Listen to this. This is mind-boggling. It's crazy. Crazy, Sheba, crazy. The halacha is a kohen gadol has to marry a basula. A kohen gadol has to marry a basula. What's the reason? So the Tosfos on the, it's not in the Bali Tosfos. They put out a sefer. I forgot what it's called. They put a Tosfos, a sefer Tosfos on Chumash. Shimon Dov, listen to this. Shimon. Listen to this. Listen to this. The kohen gadol has to marry a basula. Why? Because if he doesn't have to marry a basula, you're worried that on Yom Kippur, when he goes lefnai lefnim, he might daven that a certain wife's husband should die, that he should marry her. Now, it's the holiest day of the year, the holiest place of the year, at the holiest time of the year. And what might he be thinking about? Another woman? So to avoid that, we say, no, he has to marry a basula. It's unbelievable. You see that ad kedei kach concern we have what an individual might do in order to what? To marry another woman. And that fits in with the theme of the next Mishnah. You go into a dayan on a bezdin, and the bezdin, he doesn't find a heter for you. He can't marry you. He's a dayan on a bezdin. He's got a long beard, a vaisa bud. What are you worried about? Well, if you're worried about the kohen gadol on Yom Kippur in the Kodesh Kedoshim, you got to worry about this too. I think it's a very good hezbollah. I didn't see it anywhere, but I think it's a good hezbollah. Says the Mishnah. HaChacham she'aser es ha'isha b'neder al baila, a chacham that aser ha'isha b'neder al baila. The Baal says he can't have enough from his wife. He doesn't find the heta. He's going to have to divorce her because he can't have enough from her. Harizeh lo yisena. He should not marry her. He should not marry her. Again, you want to avoid what people might say. Mina, let's say she's a katana, and now she goes to Bezdin and refuses the marriage. We said Mion is she's married off by a brother or Klushi Derabanan. You don't need to get because she wasn't married by a father. She was married by a mother or a brother, or she was married previously and divorced out of the jurisdiction of the father. In those cases, there's Mion. Or Chalitza was done in front of him, and now he wants to marry her. Yisena, Mifnei Shu Bezdin. What's the difference, guys? By a Taurus Nedarim, you only need, by Bezdin, you need, by 3, we're not chayish, by 1, you're chayish. The Gemara is going to ask, L'chayra, the Gemara is going to ask, the Gemara is going to ask, the Gemara is going to ask, L'chayra, by Taurus Nedarim, you need 3 as well. And so he asks from that to me. Says the Gemara, Hayatiri Yisena. But in other words, if he matters it, he could marry her. Again, if he doesn't find an excuse, then and the husband divorces her, he can't marry her. If he does matter the neder and then the husband divorces, then he could marry her, right? Good. In other words, you can't find me guilty. I did nothing wrong. I took the nadarim off her and she got divorced for other reasons. Ha'hitira, if he matters her, then you say no. But my askin, what are we dealing with over here? If you're going to tell me we're speaking about what? One dayan, bechad mi matzi mater, could one go ahead and matter? I Omar, Omar, I don't know. Rabbi Chia bar Avin, Omar Rav, Amram, Tana, Hataris Nadarim b'shleisha. You need 3. So it can't be speaking 1. Ella betilsa. It's speaking about 3. Fred the Gemara, it's speaking about 3. Mi chashidi. What are we suspicious about? V'tanan, the end of the Mishnah, Mina Oisha Chalsa b'fanav Yisa'enim Feishu Bezdin. So guys, look back at the Mishnah. I'll show you have a steer in the Mishnah based upon an inference. Look at the first case. Hachacham she'aser es isha. A chacham that asks an isha. then what? He can't marry her. But one chacham that matas an isha, then at matas he could marry her. Now we're speaking about mashma. We're speaking about what? 3. So therefore, it must be 3. You can't marry her. Yet in the end of the Mishnah, by me and the chalitza with this 3, you could marry her. So you have a stira in the relation to the sefer. And for the Gemara loyal bechad, there's no stira. The din of the ratio of hataris nedarim is not speaking about 3 dayanim like by me and by chalitza. It's speaking about 1 dayan. In another venue, they say that what? A yachin mumcha is believed. Say nachanami. If it was 3 people, even if they weren't matzah the neder, they can go ahead and get married. 3 people you can get married. Why? Because by miyah and by chalitza you could. Our Mishnah is speaking of it's 1 dayan, and he didn't find the heta. But if he did find the heta and he got married, then there's no problem because we're not going to be chayish for any hanky panky. Miyah no isha chalza. Then we said that what? There's 3. Time at the bezdinu. The reason why what? That he could marry her is because they're a bezdin. Betray loy. But it's not a bezdin, it's 2 not. Maishna mehadet nan. Eidim achasum al stei mekach. Eidim that are written on a stei mekach, they're able to buy the field. They say that whenever there's a time of the field, it goes free, they can buy it. Al get isha loy chashu chacham mudava. Right? In other words, they can go ahead and marry her. What's the difference, guys? You're telling me over here, the reason why by me and you could marry is because you're 3. Mashma, if you're 2, you can't. Why is it different than a get isha that if you're 2, you could? In other words, 2 should do the job. The only suspicion should be 1. But if it's 2 or 3, so Fred the Gemara Kasha. The reason why the Mishnah you can't, you could is because it's 3. Mashma, if it's 2, you couldn't. Fred the Gemara from get. If get that signed to Adam, 2 you could marry. And for the Gemara, so go for Kamash Malon. No, really, 2 you could, guys. Guys, 2 you could. In other words, the fact that you could marry has nothing to do with the number, 2 or 3. It's tell me a zaytik chiddush that the din of miyan can't be done on less than 3. It's a din in bezdin. Gufa kamash malon. Da fuki mandiyama mi miyan b'nei shnayim kamash malon miyan begimeli boy. Begimel. Stop, guys. So you know what's the teretz? The teretz be'emes. If it would come to go ahead and permit it to marry this woman, 2 people also could, similar to get. The Adam can marry. Over here, it's teaching me that miyan can't be with 3 because there's a manda oma needs to be with 3. Because there's a manda oma who says what it can be with 2, and therefore you have to tell me 3. So again, the leading them on is 2. You're good. In your miyan, the zaytik din of miyan gufa for the din of miyan itself, not for the din of remarriage. The din of the miyan itself of the katana, you need 3, not 2, because there's a manda oma that says you need 2. Iboilahu konas mahu. In this case, what's the din? In this case, which case, Rashi? Rashi says, get koi. Now, big machloikas rishonim, if it's going on the chacham, the mevi get. But again, according to Rashi, let's learn Rashi's pshat. In the case where the chacham failed to matter, in the case where mevi get. So they both marry the woman. Do we make him go away from the woman? Again, that's the theme of the sugya. Would we expect him to go out because we want to hasten mimcha ikesh rupi? We want to go ahead and remove everything. So Rav Kana Amar Kanas Maitzi. Rav Kana says, if you go get married, you do leave. Rav Ashi Amar Kanas Eina Maitzi. Rav Ashi says, Kanas Eina Maitzi, you're not. One more time. Rav Kana says, in the scenario where he shouldn't have married her because he was a chacham, and he went ahead and he couldn't find the heter, and he married her, says Rav Kana, you have to leave. Says Rav Ashi, no. Kanas Eina Maitzi. Tani Lu Rav Zutri Debei Rav Papi, Kidibei Oim Kanas Eina Maitzi, like Rav Ashi. He learns that if he does marry, the chacham marries her, or the aid by the get marries her, the shliach by the get marries her, ain't a mitzi. Omrulei Rabbanal Ravashi, Gemara Svara. You have a Messiah on this, a Liman on this, right? Or it's a Svara. Chonis ain't a mitzi, right? If he marries her, he doesn't have to leave. Is that do you have a Messiah and a Limud, or is it Svara? Samalu Masnisani. It's a Mishnah, our Mishnah. Hanitan Mishivcha Mishtachara. A rumor goes about that a guy is involved with a shivcha and he frees her. A rumor goes out that he's involved with a Vedas Kachavim in this gaira. Harizel lo yichnois from konas ein amoitzi alma birana lo nafkinan. Just because of a rumor, we're not going to go ahead wide and make you go out. Hachanami birana lo nafkinan. Here as well, we're not going to make you go out. Let's see the top Rashi. Birana in the case of like if they rinun velaz b'nei adam lo yamrin lo yichotzi. In other words, you shouldn't get married in the first place to substantiate this rumor or bring suspicion upon yourself. But once done, it's done, right? Now, what's the difference? Why Eishes Ish would make you go out? Guys, Freg Rashi Kasha. If it's only a rumor, why by Eishes Ish are we making you go out? The other place you're not making you out. It says the Hasam Hoyel v'Hoitzia, since Bezdin made her out, in other words, the Baal took her out because of this reason. And now she goes ahead. In other words, her actions over there is substantiating what the rumor was. By the Chacham not being matter, it doesn't substantiate it. By bringing get, it doesn't substantiate it. It's just the first chashad. You should go ahead and be squeaky clean. But your action of marrying is not going ahead and substantiating the rumor. By Isha, divorced her because of the rumor with this particular person. By marrying this particular person, it's going to substantiate the rumor. That's what Rashi says. Let's see the last Taisus on the base. Again, the same thing. Why Taisus asked the same kasha? Why by there if you're telling me it's all based upon rumor, by Eishes also is based upon rumor. So Rashi answered it. You're substantiating the rumor. It says the Hasam bidin sheyotze imhu emes. Then asirale, because there, if the rumor is true, she's asa lebal v'asa leboil. If the rumor is true, she's asa to be with the adulterer. Aval hacha she'asar seisha beneder afilu asar shleikidin kima shegir sevaila shari lechacham midaraisa. Guys, it's a beautiful teretz. Taisus gives a different teretz. By neder and by Taisus says by neder. Mashma, it's only going on by the chacham and neder. It's not going on like Rashi said. It's going on the case of the shliach. Over there, even if he divorced her, right? Divorced her, and he had his eyes upon her, right? Him marrying her is not going ahead. There's no issa deraisa to be together. Even at the end of the day, if the dayan or according to Rashi, the shliach went ahead and facilitated a divorce, he's mutter to be with her. He wasn't a boil, and therefore what? They could stay together. On the other hand, by Eishes Ish, by Eishes Ish, Adarabba, if it's substantiated, the asa, and therefore, Kanas, you're going to go ahead and leave. Okay, B'ez Hashem, we'll see you Mitzvah Shabbos. Mazel Tov again to Baruch on the birth of an Einikel,
Mazel Tov.
Simcha, and I'm very unhappy that